Hey there everybody, welcome to my channel. Thanks for clicking on the video. I hope if you like it you'll consider subscribing, and thank you to everyone who has subscribed so far. I appreciate all of you. Today I want to get into 90 Day Fiance the Other Way, Season 5, Episode 9, Sarper and the City. So we might as well start with that couple, right? So let's talk about Shekinah and Sarper. We meet up with her first, and she says that she's moving to Turkey in a few days, but before she goes, she needs to have an important conversation. She says that she had her first real relationship when she was 23, and he was Italian and 27 years older than her, and they dated for 4 years. And they also had a daughter together. Her name is Sophia, and she is now 15. Her and Berto is her kid's dad's name, split up shortly after Sophia was born. And then she tells us that he has been living in Costa Rica for about 9 years because he opened a hotel. He opened a hotel there. So they just co-parent from a distance. But he comes back often to see his daughter. And she tells Berto now that her daughter is in boarding school, she feels like she's entering, a different stage in life. And then she starts having a hard time telling him. And he can tell that she wants to tell him something. So she starts off with how she went to Turkey a few months ago. And in the short time that she was there, she met someone, and now she's moving. And he's like, "Are you joking me?" Really? It feels very fast to him. She tells him, it just feels right though. And, how much time do you need when it feels right? He's like, "Well, you felt right about the last guy. So what makes you think it's going to work out with this guy?" She says that she took a year off and didn't date because she was trying to identify toxic traits that she has that make her keep finding the same person, just in different people. So she feels like she's looking through a clearer lens now. He's not buying it. He looks like a disappointed father to me. And he tells us that she makes a lot of mistakes in the men that she chooses. And, I'm pretty sure her friends said the same thing. That, Berto says she bases her choices off looks rather than morals and principles. How did he already describe this guy, though? He just knows. But he says, her mind's made up. No matter what he says, it's not going to change anything. And he's like, "However, you do have a daughter, and she's not being your first priority right now." And she's like, "She is, because I want to show her what a healthy relationship looks like." Well, dang, your daughter's not even going to see it. You're going to be in Turkey while you shipped her off to boarding school. She tells us that her and her daughter have a really good relationship, but it might not be typical. She doesn't sugarcoat things because she doesn't want her to think that, it's a fairy tale, and she wants her to know that there are challenges in dating, and her daughter sure sees her go through them. Then she tells her baby daddy that she's going to come back every 5 weeks to spend a week with her. And, I think maybe she would do that at first, but after a while she would probably stop coming or have reasons not to, or it would be too expensive. And then Berto is like, he's glad he sold the hotel in Costa Rica now because he has all the time in the world to spend with her daughter. And she's like, "Wow, that's perfect timing. It's just amazing how things line up." And, essentially it's his turn to come back to the U.S. and take care of their daughter, and it's Mama's time to take off with her man friend. She says that she thinks it's a double standard that he wants to say she isn't prioritizing their daughter when he missed a lot of important years of her life. Like, yeah, but he was working. He didn't leave for a woman, you know? That's the difference. She said she knows, oh, like this little girl only knows her mom. So like here, now you can live with your dad that you don't know very well in your formative later years of high school and things. Because I think she's only 15. That's what she said. You know? It's like, hey, rely on this strange man you barely know. He says that, you know, she's still the mother of his child and he'll always have a special place in his heart for her. And he tells her if she feels like something isn't right with this guy, don't hesitate to call him. And she cries and she thanks him. And it means a lot for her to hear that, even though he doesn't agree with her decision. He's still going to be there for her. But she knows what's right for her. And she asks him for a hug and tells him she appreciates him. I felt like he was her father. Like more than a co-parent. It was like he helped raise her too or something. I don't know. Anyway, let me know what you thought about that part. Later we see Sarper. He's doing a photo shoot. And I'm telling you, he looks like Crixus from Spartacus if you got him from Wish.com and he had like a smaller head. It drives me nuts. I don't know if anyone's seen that show. I loved it. I've watched it several times. It's pretty good. Sarper says that he's been modeling for a year now, and before he did import-export, but he never talks about that again, because then he just like talks about being a trainer and things. He says that a year ago someone offered him to be a model by chance, and he likes to be sexy and take pictures and things, so this is good for him. He's obsessed with his body and how he looks, and he was even an exotic dancer for 7 years, but his parents weren't happy about that. So a few years ago he tried fitness and bodybuilding, and he said that his first trainer asked him to take test his testosterone level because his body improved too quickly, and apparently on a scale of 1 to 8 he was a 12. It's like a weird flex he has, I think. He's full of testosterone, this guy. So he took personal training seriously the last year as well. His best friend Mete is meeting him at the gym, and he's known him for about 20 years. They also met at the gym that time, and he can tell him anything. He tells his friend that he has some news, that American girl Shekinah is moving to Turkey. His friend seems a little shocked. Sarper tells us that he met her on a matchmaking site. He thought her name was original. He thought her photos were too. And he was only expecting a one-night stand, but the first date was like a dream. They had good chemistry, good conversation. It was like they knew each other for years. And she looks like a sex bomb, and he's a tough guy, bad boy on the outside. But they saw the soft side in each other. And after the first night they were together, she wanted to see him on the next night. But the next day he said he had been with 2 women already, and he was sick and tired. He tried to cancel, but she insisted on coming to take care of him. Like, ew. Ew. I hope she hears this. She probably already knew. She probably thought it was funny. So, you know, he was like, you could come if you want to that much. Even though he was sick and he was with 2 girls before that, the sex between them was perfect, and he just wasn't expecting that. And when she left Turkey, he wasn't expecting to see her again, but she came back just for him. And they had this perfect honeymoon type vacation. And after that week, everything changed for him. And he's so happy that she's going to move here in a few days. And, you know, we get back to the gym. His friend is like, after living such a life, you know, are you ready to settle down? He says he doesn't want to live that life anymore. And then he says that he slept with probably 2,500 women. And I'm like, okay, Gene Simmons, we see you. His friend laughs and, now you're going to commit to only one? Apparently he is. He tells us in the past he dated lots and lots and lots and lots and lots of women. But they were mostly one-night stands. And, I thought we already have this character on the other show, Statler. He sounds like her, right? He says he's danced for over 600 bachelorette parties, and half of the brides wanted to sleep with him. And, if they were attractive, he was down. It wasn't a service. It was just for fun. So he's not like a hooker or something. He's not cheap. He never thought he would settle down, but then he met Shekinah. Did you guys see, the moves he was doing on his couch, though? He was really into himself. I bet he has, mirrors on every wall in his house. But then he says, lately when girls hit on him, he just rejects them right away. And he says he hasn't been loyal to anyone in 43 years, which is the exact age that he is now. I'm like, dang, you weren't loyal to your mama? You don't have your friends' backs? I know what he meant, but he is loyal to her, to Shekinah. And to keep her in his life, he had to leave that lifestyle behind. And, she wants him to be faithful to her. And he's trying. He's been faithful for 79 days. I wonder how long these two have been together. I'm not good at math. So if any of you know, please let me know. But that's the longest duration that he's been faithful to someone. But also the longest with no sex. And with that high testosterone level of his, he's getting restless. So he's counting the days. And he tells his friend, this is the first time he told a girl that he loves her. And he's wondering if she put a spell on him. Because he doesn't even recognize himself anymore. And his friend says that he isn't surprised that he can get all the women. He's in perfect shape and he's good at talking to women. But he's never formed a deep bond with anyone. So he isn't sure how long this will last because it feels weird to the friend for sure. He tells him, he's going to commit to her and work for a relationship. And he tells us that it's hard to give up the bad boy lifestyle, but he loves her. So he hopes that he will get used to it because it'll be difficult. And, he's just going to try his best. The way that they describe their relationship is completely different. She's like, he's the love of my life. And it was just instant, a connection. It was beautiful. We went on a date and I fell in love at first sight. And this guy's 79 days without sex. I wore flip-flops so I could hear the noises. Stuff like that, this, And I don't think he's going to be faithful to her long term. He's never done that. He doesn't know how. And eventually he'll probably get bored. He already thinks she's overweight and needs new hair and makeup. Yikes. And you know what? This couple isn't going to last because they only brought them on last episode to fill in for another couple that's probably exiting stage left as we speak. And the couple exiting stage left, Julio and Kirsten. Julio was telling us that a couple days ago, he had a conversation with her and told her he couldn't move there anytime soon. And she's upset right now. He talked to his mom, and his mom told him not to leave. His brothers need him there to keep them on the straight path. So he can't leave. Don't they have father figures or anything to show him that? Or the cousins? It's all on Julio, I guess. He video calls Kirsten, and, the mood just feels sad. She's like, what happened? You told me at the airport you would move here in January, and we even pinky promised. And, what changed? And he's like, when she left, his mom broke down to him and told him that, she needs help with his brothers. And it's just difficult being pulled from both sides. She says, he should have thought about how his mom would react. He says, he messed up. She tells him, he was saying he's moving there. He talks so smoothly, and she believed him. And he says when the time is right, his end goal is to move. But for now, he has stuff at home he needs to work out with his family. She tells him she can't do this for another year. He tells her, she can't put a timeline on things. Like, yeah, she can, especially when you told her, I'm moving in January, before she even went to New York. But, she can't put a timeline on things and be like, you have 3 months to make a decision. And I think all she's doing is expecting her boyfriend that she loves to keep his word. He's being very poor me, understand my problem, I created myself. And she tells him she doesn't think she can wait another year. It's hard for her mentally. And he's like, well, if that's how you want to look at it then. And, we can just end it on that note. She asks if he wants to end it there. She tells us that she's just like shocked by his whole attitude. He's just giving up on the relationship. He's acting like he doesn't care at all. And, I think he just can't admit that his actions hurt everybody that he loves. She tells him that she doesn't see him sad or anything. Like, it's just easy for him. He says, how do you not know that after this conversation I won't go in the bathroom and bawl my eyes out? She knows that he's not going to do that. And he's smiling. He says he feels hurt and like he let her down. And he feels like he's the worst person in the world. I'm like, well, no, that's Cody Brown. Everybody knows. He's the worst person. But you're still pretty bad. And, it's not a good feeling to watch her cry and not be able to be there for her. And it sucks and it's horrible. Poor Julio. Everyone be sad. She tells him that he doesn't understand her and he starts laughing. She asks why he's laughing. He says it's because of what she's saying, and she cuts him off and is like, that's disrespectful that he's making fun of her when she's so sad and emotional. He says he's not smiling, he's flabbergasted, duh, and in disbelief about what she was saying. He's like, can we just end this? And she's like, so you see me crying, and then as soon as I'm crying, you want to end the call. And that's all she gets after all this time. He says he's sorry. She's like, no, you're not. She says that he's acting like a POS, and she's really hurt because she doesn't know if he had real intentions to spend the rest of his life with her. And did he really care for her? She's just not so sure anymore. He tells her it's just best for them to break up. She says, so this is it. We're not going to see or talk to each other again. He's like, well, what else can we do? He tells us that it's not a good feeling to break someone's heart. He still loves her, but he thinks they need to look at things for what they are. And he feels like they were living in a fantasy world for most of their relationship. Like, no, she was believing him. She was believing he came and lived there for 2 months. He was living in a fantasy world, not telling his family and the people in his life the truth, and making this poor girl fall in love with him and believe his crap. She had no reason not to believe him. He lived there for 2 months. They made all these plans. He goes home for 5 minutes, finally tells them, and now he's changed his mind. But she was living in a fantasy world? No, it was him. And he did say they, but he included her in that, and that ain't true. She was going off what he told her. But then he tells us the real issue, that the last couple of months, things have been difficult between them. And if they weren't, maybe he could have made it work. So he just didn't want to be with her. He needed an excuse. Basically. Like, those months were difficult because of him, because he lies, all of that. He's like on the phone with her and he says, yeah, I think everyone got to say what they wanted here and let it all out, right? And she's like, yeah, you're laughing and I'm crying, so let's end it. Hopefully that's the last we have to see of this. I'm sure they'll rehash it on the reunion. I think he got in over his head. I think he's a coward. I think he cannot stand by his own decisions. So he can enjoy living with his mother the rest of his life, or finding a woman that wants to come and move in with them. But he needs to stop dating abroad, that's for sure. Okay, let's talk about Brandon and Mary. She tells us that they were able to make up after, she told him she's going to try harder to trust him. And now they're on their way to see her old home. She wanted him to see where she grew up before she met him. He was like, wow, this isn't as bad as I thought. She tells him, like, her brother started fixing it. And also that the house was ruined by Typhoon Odette. And they show us a picture of, like, how high the water was and all the damage. And they lost everything. She says that's why the grandparents are staying at the new house that Brandon and her built. They had already started building it when the typhoon came, and it's safer because it's a higher area for them to stay. And Brandon's like, yeah, it looks like they're putting it back together real well. Sorry, I'm stuttering. But he says, it looks like they're putting it back together really well. And I'm like, yeah, this guy is like, they could move back in here any day, right? Let's get them out of there. He says that he appreciates being able to build a new house, but they need to find a way to make money. They spent all the money he had to build the house. And he was sending all or most of his check to pay for the house and the bills and the data for Mary's phone since she was on it 24/7. But now he's not working, and it's scary. He tells her they have about $306 left, and he doesn't think they can pay the bills next month. And he's asking her, like, what can we do? She's like, I'll make some necklaces and sell them. But that's just a small amount of money. He's like, well, can we go to your grandpa and ask for a loan or something? She's like, no. No, they can't. Like, so you mean to tell me he was funding the grandparents and everyone's life too? She tells Brandon that, the grandparents don't have a lot of money. And she doesn't depend on them because they have their own problems. So she depended on them till she met Brandon, and he started paying for her life and theirs and a house. And now nobody can help him out. And he's like, yeah, Mary, but we're in a hole now. And, they should ask for help. And she starts crying, of course. She doesn't want to ask her grandpa for help anymore because he's sacrificed a lot already, and now she's getting more upset. And she doesn't want to stress out the grandpa. Brandon's like, he isn't making him stressed. And she's like, he's old. He tells her to stop talking and to breathe because she's like, crying. She tells him her grandpa deserves to be happy. He sacrificed a lot when she was a kid, and he sent her to college. It's like, so that's up to Brandon to, like, thank him? Like, maybe you should get a job. Why haven't you been selling necklaces all this time? Brandon would have watched you on the video chat, I am sure. He tells her that it seems like she's the one who's stressing about it. And he tells us that he wasn't expecting her to react this way, and, like, it's a bit much. He says he doesn't know, like, what grandpa makes on the farm or how he spends his money, but it for sure wasn't on the house that Brandon built, because Brandon did that. And a little loan could help a lot. He asks Mary if he can talk now. He's like, your grandpa didn't pay for your college. You got a scholarship. And she's like, he gives us food. And he's like, could you stop interrupting me? She's like, she just wants to explain that Grandpa's the one who gave them food. He doesn't know anything about that or the sacrifice. And then she cries more. And she's like, in America, Americans don't struggle like them. He says, even though, your grandpa's sacrificed a lot, so has Brandon. He tells her, like, other countries think America is great and everyone is rich and fat and happy, and it's not like that because we struggle too. Brandon didn't always have a roof over his head or food, but he still tried his best to provide for Mary and send her all the money and give her a place to live. And she's like, I'm thankful for that, but like he doesn't understand. She tells us that she knows how Brandon struggled and she wanted to cry when she saw him like that. But people in America have government support, like food stamps. Over there, people, not everyone gets support. And it's the same way here. In fact, you barely have to make any money to not qualify for food stamps. And we have entire cities called tent cities where homeless people live in like more populated areas. It's not that easy, like she's trying to make it sound. Not to mention, like if you're a single male like Brandon, like a young single male with no family, you're not getting much assistance at all. You're the last one to get assistance. She's saying, people over there don't have a roof sometimes or something to cook with. Like Brandon just said he didn't have a roof. They don't have toilets, so people there poo-poo everywhere. Does she think people don't do that here? I mean, it's not like it's common. It's not all over the place, but I'm sure that people don't have bathrooms everywhere in America. And so, Brandon didn't experience real struggle. So, she doesn't want him to ask Grandpa for help because she feels too guilty. He says he's not going to put her in that position. And, they can find a way to work something out. I bet you that he has to call his godparents or someone for money. I bet you it's okay for him to ask for help, but not her. He tells us that, in his future, he wants them to grow old together. So he's going to make sure that they're happy and successful. And, to him, all this struggling is worth it. And she thanks him for understanding. So next episode, I'm sure he'll be asking, his people for help. What'd you guys think of Brandon and Mary? They weren't as infuriating as usual, but they still make me crazy. I think it's because they're just two very damaged, immature little kids, just trying to make it, and I hope they can figure it out. Sometimes you have to suck it up and ask for help. All right. Thanks for sticking it out this long with me, guys. If you haven't, make sure to like the video and subscribe and let me know what you're thinking. And last up, we're going to talk about Kimberly and Tajaswi. They were probably the most interesting couple to me to watch on this episode. So they're leaving the house and she has like these very ripped pants on and like a crop top. And I feel like, this is not approved attire for the area, but it must be alright because TJ was like, let's go. She asks him like she wants to drive and he's hesitant, but he agrees to let her drive. He tells her to be careful. She immediately goes to like the wrong side to even get into the car, and he's like, are you sure you want to drive? She tells us the wedding is in 4 days, so today they're meeting with the wedding decorator. They're going to see the venue. She's trying to stay positive even though things got so tense with Yash the night before. But, her and TJ are good, and that's all that matters. She's driving around crazily for sure, and that's like in India. She decided to drive because she does need to learn how. If she wants to go somewhere, she needs to be able to do that. And, every time I see India on a show, whether it's like a 90-day show or Amazing Race or something like that, the traffic there is crazy and intimidating, and it makes like most of the American people there really scared. Like Jen and her friends from last season. They got like thrown up on, I think. So she's like, yeah, I'm not a bad driver, haha, and then tries to swerve around someone, and then she hits them. And then she's like, oh, did I just hit them? Ha ha ha. And she keeps apologizing, and this is when she realizes maybe TJ should drive. She says, driving there's no rules. no stop signs. Oh, stop signs are suggestions. And TJ is like, we have rules. And she's like, yeah, don't hit a cow. That's the only rule. And he says, yeah, because she is spiritual. I don't know why they didn't stop after they hit someone. Like, if you generally can do a hit and run in India, I don't know anything about driving there. So if you know any of the driving rules in India, please let me know, because it does look like they don't have any, but I've only seen it on TV shows. So TJ says he checked his baby, his car, and it had a dent and a scratch, but he doesn't say anything because he doesn't want to fight anymore. Like, this poor guy's already traumatized by the fighting. They're not even married yet. So he starts driving, and she's like, yeah, I'll get better at driving, and she's just super excited to see the venue. She says there's a lot of little events leading up to the wedding, and the ceremony and all these things are taking place at this venue for 2 days, over 2 days. And this will be the first time that she gets to see how things look, and she's really anxious to see what TJ has planned. They walk in, they meet Amit, the decorator, and he tells them they just want to see how things are shaping up. So far, it looks beautiful to me. There are a lot of pink shades and flowers and like drapes and a stage. And he's telling them, there's going to be rows of chairs and a path leading up to the stage. And she's asking like if there'll be different chairs, but I guess it's the same chairs with different covers. I'm not for sure that she was a fan of the chairs, but she didn't say anything. They tell us there'll be a couch on the middle of the stage and lighting. And she starts to tell this guy what kind of lights she wants, what kind of shades of pink she likes, like as if she has a choice. And I don't even think he can understand her because he was speaking in Indian the whole time. But she's like, definitely not the pink on the seat covers. And for this part, she says, he can just do white instead of pink for like this other cloth. She tells us that her dream wedding would be in a forest with lights hanging from the trees and candles all over, and lots of white with ballet pink accents. But in India, you go all out and it's every color. But she thinks the decorator seemed to think that he knew what she wanted and could do it. And I'm like, he didn't even speak your language, lady. She says she has a good feeling about this place, and she's excited to see how it looks. She thinks she still might get a white wedding with pops of pink. And she feels better now. Thank Jesus for that. He's happy that she's excited and happy. But on the other hand, TJ knows that she's very specific about things and she wants perfection always. And then they show us her just like tearing apart every element of the apartment. Just little snaps of her getting mad about everything. And she wasn't involved in the wedding planning. So he's worried she might get mad about something during the wedding and ruin it. Which I mean is a legitimate fear I would have. He's already traumatized to be like, woman, you dented and scratched my car. I told you not to drive. We could have practiced in the parking lot, but no. He's too afraid to say that. Later we see them. TJ's family is working on some stuff. Kim is upstairs shuffling her cards. And he's like, do you want to come downstairs? And she's like, yeah, sure. For what? And he says to have a little conversation. With the whole family, and just talk to settle things down. Because her dad's going to be there tomorrow. He doesn't want there to be tension. TJ tells us the wedding is in 3 days, and he wants to settle things between Yash and Kimberly because he's making his parents believe that he's taking Kim's side. And now they're hurt, but the truth is he isn't on either side. He just wants peace. She tells us since Yash left the conversation, she still hasn't talked to him, and she feels like he needed that space from her. But she still feels like there's a lot of tension, and she's just uncomfortable. She walks in, she's like, namaste, sits down. The mom is like, oh, she doesn't know how to dress in front of others? Like, yikes, I knew them pants would be trouble. Dang. TJ's like, oh, come on, it's okay. The mom says, like, she should know manners. And he's like, dang, Mama, can I sit down first, please? And she's like, well, she should at least know manners. Mama tells us a daughter-in-law should wear appropriate clothes and dress fully, and she's just missing all the cloth on the bottom of her outfit. It's just completely missing. What's the point in wearing clothes? And her father-in-law is there. Yash says, learn some manners and things will be fine. TJ's like, you need to stop and have patience. By the way, this whole conversation is in yelling. The mom says that, except the mom, Mama doesn't yell. The mom says, just learn the customs and some manners. He says it's not as if she's wearing it for the first time. So now they're just picking at her because she's worn it before. They didn't say nothing. And she's like, well, it's your job to, make her understand the rules and manners. And he's like, well, are we going to stop this or keep dragging it on? And she's like, so we need to beg for an apology? She says Yash took her to buy bangles, and even there she was obnoxious and even daring enough to say, don't touch me. Like, wait, that's the problem? The problem isn't that he touched her? Like, she should just be okay with getting touched by a man whenever? And she can't tell him no? Apparently, her making such allegations, they could go to jail. What allegations? He did touch her. And if he touches her and goes to jail, well, that's his fault. He shouldn't have touched her. He should keep his old grubby hands to himself, maybe. Kim picks up that the mom is saying, don't touch me, which is what she said to Yash, and she knows that all of this is about her. So she can only imagine what he told his parents about what happened. The mom is like, we gave her love and we treated her like a daughter, and that doesn't mean she can insult them by saying anything she wants. By the way, they're just talking crap about her and yelling about her, and she can't understand nothing. So how's she even supposed to know? And then mom is like, it's such a big function, and is marriage a joke? Yash is like, he doesn't get it. And TJ snaps at him to shut up. He says he's been quiet. The mom is like, why are you dragging him into all of this? And TJ's like, he's interfering. I'm not dragging him in, which is true. Finally, Kim does like the smart thing and exactly what I would have done and just gets up and walks out. Like, I cannot handle yelling. Yelling can bring out very triggering responses. So she could like start having a panic attack or shaking or shut down. So if that makes you uncomfortable, walk away from it. She's leaving, and as she's leaving, Yash is like, better to go, or whatever he says to her. And his mom tells him not to say anything. He says it's better for her to leave, and TJ says he needs to be careful or he's going to leave. They accuse TJ of just wanting to fight. He's like, look, I came down here to talk to you guys, and you're being obnoxious. And, not looking at him. Yash is like, you only listen to Kim anyway. And he only yells at him in front of her. Kim is on the stairs listening and crying. She says the one thing that she wanted was not to be stuck in the middle of people yelling at her or about her in a language that she doesn't understand. And she thinks they're being rude. Like, nobody around here got any manners. Yash is like, you want me to respect her and she abuses everyone? Like, who did she abuse? Like, yeah, she's not that great. And she has, like, some issues. But when she was yelling at TJ, they were yelling at each other. I wouldn't call that, like, abusive. Everybody argues and yells at some point. So I don't know who she was abusing. He tells them, she said that she doesn't like his family and she doesn't want to live with them. Which she pretty much said. So he's not making that up. But I don't know that that's abusive either. And the mom is like, this is a nightmare. Kim is like worried about TJ. She feels bad, like this is her fault. But she isn't going to live in this environment because she already grew up in a toxic environment. the mom says, like, if she goes to someone's house as a daughter-in-law, like, she should at least learn basic manners. He says that she doesn't know these things. Like, Kim, like, she doesn't have manners. Like, their manners and our manners are different. Like, manners here are like, cover your mouth when you sneeze. Say, excuse me. Say, please. Don't put your elbows on the table. Bring the mother flowers. Something like that, you know? But I just don't get it. It's because it's a completely different culture than I'm used to. So yeah, Kim doesn't know manners. And I just say, you know, like in America, a lot of people do live with their in-laws, but it's not something we plan for our entire lives, to have like a joint family and everyone's going to live together. Usually it's out of circumstance. So she was never expecting to be a daughter-in-law in someone's home. And he's like, she's going to gradually learn it. He's never told her that she had to. The brother is like, she should have asked you if it was okay to wear that or not. And now she's roaming naked. Like, well, damn, it wasn't that bad. And what, have you, any American women out there, have you ever went up to your husband, boyfriend, partner, and been like, is it okay that I wear this? Unless it was like a wedding, church, you know, but on a daily basis. Like when I got dressed this morning, I didn't ask anybody, is this all right? I know it's like a little open. No. So of course she's not used to that. Who would ever ask if it's okay? TJ is like, you're ruining my life for a pair of pants. And Yash tells us that he's not in favor of this marriage. And it's like, yeah, we know. He knows that she doesn't want to live in the family. You know, he feels that she only cares about her happiness and that this marriage is going to create havoc. I mean, like, no one's lining up to marry Yash. Like, he seems like jealous and cranky and just annoyed. And I'm sure we're just seeing the bad side of him because he's going to have to live with her and she's representative of everything he doesn't believe in. But I still don't see anyone lining up to marry him. And then, you know, TJ's like, fine, do the right thing, call off the marriage. He starts throwing something at them, walks out. They say, like, he's saying rubbish for no reason. And Dad is finally ready to start yelling. He's about to get up. He livened up just a little. He's not a puppet or animatronic, guys. But Dad gets up. He's going to lay the smack down on his son. And Mama's like, no, don't do that. You know, TJ brought this trouble home. Let him go. Like, yikes. Do we think they're going to make it to the wedding, guys? And get married? I think if they do, it's going to be like very soon after that they move out. If they don't already plan on doing that before the wedding. Because next week it looks like she's taken off. And I really don't blame her. Like sometimes when you grow up in certain situations and then you're like put in the middle of one, you just got to run. It's flight or fight, you know? She chose flight. Because she can't fight. She doesn't even know the language. So, yeah. That's what I thought about these things. Let me know what you thought. Thanks for sticking it out. I hope you guys have a great day. My week starts, tomorrow's Monday. So, have a good week. Hopefully I'll see you sometime during it. And don't forget to like take deep breaths and smile at a stranger or do something nice for yourself. Like go buy yourself flowers. Take yourself on a lunch date. Go to the movie. You deserve it. I'll talk to you guys later. Bye.